Hello everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're connecting from. And today is our fourth session of the BA club. We had 3 sessions. We started with the vision, priority, the strategy, the customer journey map, and then we did one session regarding I forgot actually one session regarding the user story mapping template, and one session is today's session is about the prioritization. We might not be discussing all the prioritization techniques today because of the time and other things. So we will see. We will be discussing only a couple of techniques today, and yes, if required, we can have more sessions scheduled post Dasra vacation. Okay, let's continue. Hi Umesh, good evening. Define prioritization in your own words. You don't need any textbook definition. Whatever it is you would like to, you can define. What is it prioritization? When we, if you want, you can unmute.
Yeah.
Yes, Kirti.
Hi, Satish. This is Kirti. So it is this the way in which we order the requirement in the relative order of their importance. So this can be basically dependent on various factors, right? As in it can be because of risk or let's say business need or any policy or regulatory compliance. There can be many factors that that can form a basis for prioritization. So if we go through Babok, I think there are a total of 8 overall factors that Babok suggests are the basis for prioritization.
Okay, thanks, Kirti. Anyone else want to add? You can type in or you can speak up. Importance. Okay, order according to importance. Okay. Anyone else? Shipra, want to add from your side?
Yes, so yeah, prioritization is basically deciding what goes first and what can come later. So as Kitty mentioned, there can be a number of factors deciding or driving that decision. So business priority, severity, regulatory requirements, dependencies is another important factor which you cater for. So you cannot do everything in one go. So you need to decide what you need to do first and what you can park on for upcoming sprints and what you are not going to do at all. That is also important. So basically, scoping and prioritization goes hand in hand, and you decide what needs to be what needs your immediate attention.
Sure, thank you. Okay, let's continue. Your favorite prioritization technique or approach, if you're already using or if you're already aware of. Anyone want to take it up?
My favorite is Moscow.
Moscow? Yes, most of us, we prefer is in Moscow for yes, various reasons. How about others?
Yeah, Moscow, Satish.
Moscow
is very famous.
Yeah. Yes, Moscow is very famous. Yes, the way how Moscow is famous, the same way Moscow is famous here as well, from the prioritization perspective. Okay, yes. So let's go back Moscow. Thank you. Okay, let's get started with our Miro board. Again, I'm sharing the link in case you want to go through it, and we will do a little bit of hands-on using the Miro board, And the other technique, we will use the Google Drive. When we go to that Google Drive, I will share that link as well. So this is what today we will be going to discuss. Hope you're able to see the screen clear. The framing is not proper today. Can anyone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Satish, it's visible.
Okay, sure. So there are various prioritization techniques, but today we are going to touch base couple of them. Moscow, WSJF or WSJF from the scale agile perspective and the RICE model. And we will try to do the hands-on. Again, it is up to you which one you want to pick up for the hands-on activity. We can go for that. Okay. Before going there,
Satish, t-shirt sizing basically used to under the
yes, t-shirt
sorry,
sizing is
Satish.
also there, Kirti. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but
it is also
it
there.
is basically understand the complexity of the requirement. We use it during the planning meeting, right? I don't think we use that in prioritization, right, Satish?
T-shirt sizing, most of the cases, what happens, Kirti, that will be used at the feature level, might not be at the user story level. Right. See, the Moscow technique is most common at the user story level and the sprint level. Whereas the t-shirt sizing, even the WSJF, the WSJF, which we are about to going to discuss today, those are most commonly used at the feature or the epic level. Because that way it will help us to get an idea about the high level prioritization or the high level planning before going into the actual sprint or actual team level.
Got it, Satish. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure. So before going into the techniques, if I have to define prioritization or if I have to mention it, the prioritization is not just for our projects or for our stories or the epics or the features or the sprints. This is a common thing which we do day in, day out. That if you have to talk about our day-to-day perspective as well, knowingly or unknowingly, we might be doing this prioritization. We might not be following any specific technique or approach, but yes, definitely we will be doing it. Example, today, the same time, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., I have another meeting, the session, but I had to prioritize which one I want to attend. This is the one which I am facilitating. So obviously, this gets a priority. Right? And another example is like if we, the COVID, when we talk about the COVID, when the government announced the lockdown, what happened? Everything was shut down, but only the hospitals, the groceries, the vegetables, the milk, the daily essentials are the only one which are allowed to come or to do their day-to-day activities or to do the sale or to get deliveries done and everything. The travel, the transport, the offices, schools, colleges, banks, everything is shut down. Right? Then slowly, steadily, they unlocked or they give the permission to step by step. That is one way of prioritization. Then what happened next? When the COVID vaccine was released, again, the government prioritized the doctors, the nurses, and the police or the people who are helping as a front runners in the COVID. They are the ones who got the vaccine first. Then the senior citizens above 60 got the second. Then above 45 years. Then 18 and above. So indirectly, that is what is also the prioritization. Right? So each and every step of our day-to-day activities also, we will be following or we will be doing that prioritization indirectly or directly. We might not be naming that, okay, for this thing, we followed this approach or this technique, might not be, but yes, the prioritization might be happening without our knowledge, without our awareness as well. Yeah. Another example again to give is like the airlines. When the boarding time, we will see the sequence they call the passengers to get boarded into the flight. Right. So first they will call the priority or the premium passengers or the passengers with kids or elderly people or people with special needs. Then the next sequence of people or the passengers will get onboarded. So each and every step, each and every phase, we are directly or indirectly doing that prioritization. Okay, so there are various prioritization techniques available. As we discussed, Moscow is the most common, most popularly used prioritization technique. Yes, that is the most common thing which is used. Many teams, many Scrum teams use that Moscow technique for prioritizing their product backlog, from which they plan their sprint backlog. And within the sprint as well, at times, we might be reprioritizing or we might be defining which should be must have, should have, could have, and won't be have from the team level, team backlog as well. RICE model is becoming popular slowly, steadily. Again, we will touch base a little bit about RICE technique today, not in detail. Cano is another model for prioritization. The t-shirt sizing, as Kirti mentioned, t-shirt sizing is another prioritization model, which is sometimes some companies, some organizations, they are making use of this t-shirt sizing as a prioritization model. And the last one, WSJF weighted shortest job first. That is one of the technique which is recommended by the Scale Agile team. Within that, we directly or indirectly touch base the cost of delay. So there is another prioritization technique called as cost of delay or $1,000 approach, or there are different techniques like buy a feature. There are many techniques. These are not the only techniques. I just listed some of the most commonly used. There are many other prioritization techniques as well available. If we have to start discussing about the Moscow technique, each alphabet, if we start expanding, M stands for must have. The requirements which should be given the topmost priority, whether it is from the overall product backlog perspective, or from the team perspective, or from the sprint or the module perspective. The requirement, without this requirement, the release won't happen, or the sprint increment will not be valuable. Whatever the context we are discussing, that should be considered as a must-have story or must-have item or the issue, whatever the terminology we use, that is what the must-have requirement. The next is a should have. The next is the highly desirable. So it might not be mandatory to have, but it can go, it will be bringing value out of the benefit from the implementation from the end user perspective. That's the reason we call it as a should have prioritization, like priority 2. The second prioritization goes for the should have items. The third one is could have. It is like a nice to have. It might not be mandatory to have it, but it can be bringing a little bit of value add when compared to the other items in the backlog. That is what is a could have. Then the last is the won't have or won't be nice to have. Which might not be even required, or which might not be even required to focus or to work upon from the implementation perspective. We will be defining it as a won't have in the backlog. Right. So just one point to add on is just don't look at each and every item individually. We need to look at the overall module perspective or overall product perspective. And based upon that, we need to consider this must have, should have, could have, or won't have items. Reason, if the whole module only one story is there, let's suppose like the payment module, we are prioritizing one of the payment type for the MVP or for the version 1 or the release 1, that we cannot have, should have, or could have. That is a must have. Because if you have 4-5 items, and then we can have the other category items. But when we have only one of it, which we plan, which we prioritize from the release perspective, then definitely we need to consider it and we need to tag it as a must have. So even when we complete the overall backlog prioritization, it is recommended to take a look and check back whether all the requirements, all the items are prioritized or tagged appropriately or not. Okay.
Hi, Satish, I do have a question. May I ask now or
Sure.
should I save it for
Sure,
later?
sure.
Oh.
If it is for Moscow, we can discuss now.
So you mentioned about applying the Moscow technique for at a user story level. Let's say the feature is so big enough that you cannot split it in increment at a story level. So what happens then? Should I be applying the Moscow technique at the feature level? And that means it is captured as an epic. And if that feature is given Moscow technique, how does it work?
This technique can be applied anywhere, Menaka, to that point. Need not be only at the user story level. But what my point is, like, it is most commonly used at the user story level, right? And coming to your question, if in case we say the team cannot slice down the feature into smaller user stories, the feature should go as is, as a bigger epic or a feature, then definitely we know that feature level, whether that module or the functionality, whether it should be going as is within the current release or the next release or the whatever the version we are planning, we need to consider that perspective.
Okay. So that means that even the Moscow technique applies all the way from initiative to epic to user story. It doesn't change.
It can be applied anywhere. It can be applied anywhere.
Okay.
But again, when we are considering, typically, most commonly, this is used at the user story or at the team level. That is what. But yes, there is no specific logic that it should be applied only at the user story level. No, there is no such restrictions.
Yeah, so practically, Menka, what you can do is first you can prioritize your features. So you can say that I'm going to have these features, these are must-have features, and these are won't have features which I'm not going to pick up in a particular release. My release could be quarterly release or within 6 months. So I can say that these are my must-have features, these are my should-have features. And once you have prioritized your at feature level, then you can move on to user story level and say that within this feature, I am going to prioritize these stories. And maybe some of the stories I'm going to pick it up later as part of the feature. And I'm not sure what feature you are looking at, but there cannot be a big feature. So if it is a big feature, you need to split it out into smaller chunks, into smaller user stories. If it is a small feature, then you can say that I do not have a much requirement, so let me write just one user story for it. But when you are doing prioritization, you cannot prioritize some features and some user stories together. So either you are prioritizing at feature level or you are prioritizing at user story level. You cannot mix and match.
I think my challenge currently that I'm having is trying to split a feature into smaller incremental stories to fit into a 2-week sprint. Doesn't make sense to the team, to the development team, because the model itself is so complex that they will have to work. If it has to be, especially considering the microservice architecture, it becomes very hard for them to come to a shared understanding of this particular feature can be split into many small incremental stories. So what they do is they bring in the entire feature, and it is a big complex. The complexity is too high, risk is too high, and a lot of uncertainties and ambiguities because there is a third party libraries which are involved, taken as a part of the external dependencies that we consider. And when we try to bring in this entire feature, it definitely does not fit into a 2-week sprint. Of course, going by the SAFe model, it has to be done incrementally and iteratively, but there is no there is nothing like a concrete way to say that at the end of the 2-week sprint, the team will be producing something which is valuable, because that feature is a continuity, and it is not workable feature or a useful feature. So that's why I was wondering how this comes into place when the feature cannot be broken down into incremental stories. Or should I be assuming that each increment of that story doesn't necessarily have to be valuable?
Yes,
It can be a logical group of the components working together, but in a slowly, in a iteratively, and an incremental manner. Can that assumption be made, and would that be considered as a safe assumption?
Yes, Menka, you sometimes have to go with splitting in a way that it may not be valuable to the customer as such, but it will help you progress. For example, you can, let's say, build up database tables in one go, right?
Yeah.
I was about to say SPIDR approach, Satish, yeah, but yeah. So you can build up database tables in one go. You can introduce blank fields in the UI, and you can say that once my integration is complete, you'll see data in these fields, right? There is always a way to split out a big piece into smaller chunks, because you cannot say that I have one feature and 6 people needs to work on this feature and I'm not able to split it out, because then people won't be able to work on it. And so you have to figure out smaller chunks. Maybe business wise they are not giving you a value as such in the first instance, but when a accumulation happens, then people will start seeing the value. So
All right.
and
Thank you so much.
yeah, and yes, SPIDR approach is the one which you should look at for splitting your features.
So the SPIDR technique applies only at the feature level, not at the user story level?
Both. Again,
Okay.
there is nothing which is unique to feature, which is unique to user story. So you can apply everything at both levels. But again, as I mentioned, you cannot mix and match. You cannot say that for use when I'm doing prioritization, I will look at this user stories and these features. No, you either look at features together or you look at user stories together.
I see. Okay. And even the invest principle will go, either we use the invest principle or the SPIDR technique, or they are all correlated?
No, invest is for your acceptance criteria.
Yes,
SPIDR is for splitting.
SPIDR.
Yeah.
Yes.
SPIDR is for
Oh.
splitting
Yes,
the
go ahead.
stories. Yeah. So invest says your stories is supposed to be small, right? And if you have a big story, how you can make it small is using SPIDR approach.
Okay. And invest is only for the acceptance criteria as to or defining the conditions of satisfaction and the boundary conditions of a single story.
I won't say it is for acceptance criteria as such. It is, generally a principle how your user stories should be written. They should be small, they should be testable, right? You can
the characteristics
apply, yeah.
Okay, can I say that it is a characteristic of a user story?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry,
Menka, to simplify, all of these things are just a guideline. They are not hard-coded these things that commandments that you have to follow them for each and every story or feature. These are guidelines. This will help you out. It's not supposed to hamper you from creating a story or splitting a feature.
Okay, all right.
And just to add on, if you look at Scrum Guide doesn't have the prioritization, Scrum Guide doesn't have the user stories, Scrum Guide doesn't have any of these. It is us who brought these, how we can bring in the valuable working increment on a regular intervals. Again, that regular intervals differ from business to business.
Right.
Right.
But if you again look at the Scrum guide, if you go really read the Scrum guide, it says some generative rules that can be made in that.
Yes,
when you follow
this
the
is
Scrum
all the
process. Maybe
rules
this
which,
comes under. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, these are all the
Okay.
rules which we are trying to bring in for our own, what is it, the benefit of our understanding, or to make sure we as a team or we as an organization can get benefit, or end of the day, we can deliver value or a beneficial increment to our end users, the customers.
Okay.
Right?
Understood. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
So, Shipra, just to double check, can we compromise on building a workable product increment if we are not able to fit that in within a sprint?
I'm not sure I understood your question.
Okay, so in case, let's say I'm just expanding on the question from Menaka, right? So in case if I'm trying to break down a user story, and I see that a specific user story cannot be broken down further, and this cannot be completed within a 2-week sprint also, is this acceptable?
Sometimes it does happen. Then you know agree with your Scrum Masters and PO that you will do this story in 2 sprints or 3 sprints. But again, do check out with your technical team if there are some technical aspects which they can pick up first, and which will allow you to do the functional bits in 1 sprint. So as I mentioned, a team can develop the database at their end, right? And save time on the functional implementation when they introduce the fields in the UI. Sometimes we add blank fields to the UI and say that, entering the data in these fields, or integration with third party will populate these fields. But for the time being, we are just doing the UI bit. So there is always a way. You just need to figure it out. And even if it's a complex speech, complex piece, and you need to build up it together, right? Still you can see that whether you can pick it up at field level. So let's say you have to build up 50 fields in your request file. Then what you can do is you can say I am going to do 15 in 1 sprint, and 20 in another sprint, and then at the end of the 3rd sprint you'll get the get the integration completed fully. So there is always a way to break down things. You just need to figure it out. And if it is a big piece, right, something as big as 13 story points, definitely there will be some elements to it which you can discuss with your technical team. Can you do this connection bit? So maybe connection bit you'll do later, but in the sprint you work on request file. I'm just taking an integration example, right? So can I do request in 1 sprint, response in another sprint, and then make the connection in the 3rd sprint? So at the end of the 3rd sprint only, user will see a value being generated. But yes, user is aware that technical work is going on in the back end.
Thank you.
Kirti, one more option here is, if you really are having difficulty in breaking down a story, maybe change the perspective from which you're looking at the story. Sometimes people get stuck with the end user being the beneficiary here in a story. But if you split it out in terms of a developer or an integration manager, you can easily split the work down. So maybe change the user persona which you're using to create the story.
Yes,
Yeah,
Sandeep, at times even that works. And add on what Shipra and Sandeep mentioned, Kirti, right? Sometimes the teams might be able to work in parallel if it is a bigger feature or a bigger user story, which we cannot slice down into smaller user stories. Again, context specific, sometimes the team might be able to work parallel, like 2-3 members together and get it done in parallel. Even that possibility also we can check upon. If in case, again, based upon the logistics, the technology, or the tools we are using. If possible, that is also one of the options.
Yeah, and if people can work in parallel, that means they have broken it down somehow, right? You just need to
Yes.
understand how they have broken it down.
Exactly. Okay, nice discussion. Okay, coming back to our prioritization approach. Yes. The next technique, the approach is the WSJF or the weighted shortest job first. This technique is recommended by Scale Agile framework from the implementation perspective. So this is most commonly recommended for the usage at the feature level or at the epic level, or even at the initiative level as well from the Scale Agile implementation. So what is that the things we will be looking at in this approach or the technique is the cost of delay versus the job size. So these are the two parameters, two fields which will be considered for the calculation of the WSJF or the WSJF. And one of the point is many times we get stuck with the job size. We might consider, I'm a business analyst, I'm a product owner, I'm a product manager. Why or how I get to know the job size? Or let the team come up with that. If that is the case, we can consider just the cost of delay and we can ignore the job size. Even that is a recommended approach. When we say cost of delay and job size, it is not easy or straightforward to come up or to someone, any of us, including me, to ask, Satish, can you give me the cost of delay for this feature or this epic? I might not be able to come up with a simple, straightforward answer. So for that reason, this cost of delay is further sliced down or break down into different parameters as a 3 parameters. The first one is user business value. So what's the feature? What is the functionality? What's the module we are talking about? What could be the benefit, either in the revenue or in the customer satisfaction or the increase in the number of customers or whatever the parameter we would like to consider? What could be the end user, the customer could be getting benefit once this feature or the functionality of the module is implemented or released to the production, to the market? And will there be any revenue impact? The revenue impact could be either positive or negative. And if there are any penalty or any clauses coming up along with this, yes, then definitely those are the things we need to consider as part of the user business value as the first parameter. The second parameter comes as a time criticality. Time criticality is, we all know that at some point of time, the feature or the functionality might become unused or might not be relevant to be implemented. Or some cases we might be getting with the fixed timelines. Yes, even though we are saying agile, many of our modules might be coming with the fixed timelines. Example, banking. They will say, or the income tax effective from April 1st. This will be the income tax lapse. Yes, that is coming with a fixed timeline of the April 1st. Or before March 31st of the financial year, we need to submit our, we need to close the financial records and everything. Or let's take another retail business as such as an example. Now, now it is time for Dasara festival coming up. So, or any goods, any clothes or any items related to that, companies, retail companies like Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket, they could be giving some deals, discounts, and they would like to make the timing of the market. Once that is done, once that is crossed, it's of no use for the customer or for the companies as well to release that goods or the product into the market. Same way, it will go for the Christmas, New Year, or anything as such. So the timing is also matter at times. So if there is any fixed timelines or coming up, or what if we are not implementing it, our competitor might be doing it. So if we are not doing and the competitor is releasing it, do our customers wait for us to implement this, or will they move on to the competitors? That is the pointers which need to be considered as part of the time critical. Are you good till now? The user business value and time criticality before we go ahead?
Yes, Satish.
Okay, thank you. Then the third parameter.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have a question here. So who comes up with this, or who does the cost of the delay calculation?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that, Manika.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So the third parameter is the risk reduction or opportunity enablement. It could be and as well sometimes, but most commonly it could be or, right? So do we reduce any risk associated with either the upcoming release or the existing release, which is already released into production, into the market, and we are doing some reactive measures to take it up? Yes, that is a risk reduction. Or are we going to get new market, new customers, new revenues, or anything as such by releasing this module or the feature or the functionality? Yes, that is what the risk reduction or opportunity enablement. Sometimes we may have to go into a reactive mode when some production release already happened and when our product is in the market and something goes wrong, for example, or maybe the government. Now we all know that because of the COVID and other regulations, rules, guidelines coming up, government is also at times giving different guidelines or regulations, anything as such. So if that is the case, we may have to, again, the time criticality is also come into context there, plus the risk reduction and opportunity enablement as well. So those are the things we need to consider. These three parameters of the user business value, the time criticality, as well as the risk reduction and opportunity enablement. These three together comes as a total of the sum for the cost of delay. Okay. Moving on to the job size, it is not the job duration. So we are not calculating in the story points, or we are not calculating in the days or hours or anything as such. It is again comparative or the relative comparison to the other known parameters or the known things from the implementation perspective. Again, many times we might get a question, how do I come to know? How do I get to know this? The other three parameters, it might be a bit easy, but I might not be sure about this job size. So if that is the case, we can ignore or we can keep the job size aside and consider these three parameters for cost of delay, and we can go ahead then. Right. Then, how do we ask the participants of this WSJF prioritization to come up with these parameters? Is when we say the business value or the revenue or the timelines or anything, we are not asking them, the users, to come up with the whether it is in the dollar value or whether it is in the percentage of customer base or whether it is in the timelines. No, we are asking them to use a known Fibonacci series, the typical series, the sequence which we use for the story estimations. Yes, so most of the participants will be already aware of the technique or the approach, how they come up with this. Yes, so there is the same parameter, so the same sequence is recommended to come up with the values for these, all the four parameters of the WSJF calculation. So we are not asking the users to come up with for this module, we will be increasing the customer base by $50 million, or this should be increasing the customer base by 5%. No, We are not asking them the actual or the expected values or anything as such. It is just a rough estimate of the known parameters or the known topics, known concept, known scope at that point of time. So with this, the revised WSJF calculation is the user business value plus time criticality plus risk reduction or opportunity enablement divided by job size. Again, if you are ignoring the job size, this will be gone. So only these three parameters will be totaled, sum, brought together, and will be considered as a value for the WSJ. And to answer Maneka's question, the participants who will be involved or invited for this WSJF calculation will be the business owners, the sponsors or the executors of the project management or the managers, who is there at the organization level, the product owners, and the system architects. Why system architects? Because they are the ones who could help us from the technical aspects, the technical limitations or the issues, the challenges, things. That's the reason even the system architects are involved, again from the design and the implementation perspective as well.
I have one small question. So this happens, I
Sure.
would imagine, at a program level, not at the team level, because the considering the no.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is at the program level. So even before these features are brought to the team, this will be this is how the product managers, product owners, business owners, and the architects prioritize that features into the implementation.
Okay, thank you.
But Satish,
Yeah.
I'm not clear about the role of a system architect in prioritization, because mostly when we're talking about the product, our focus will be how quicker we launch the product. The sooner we launch it, the more benefit we would be reaping from the product, right, Satish?
Exactly.
So
That's the reason. That's the reason even the system architects are involved, right? Tesla, for example, if we say Tesla is coming up with an autonomous vehicle, right? Then looking at them, what if like let's suppose we all come together as a startup and we want to say, okay, we will also come up with an autonomous vehicle. Do we have the scope clear? Yes. But do we have the required technical feasibility analysis done? Might not be. Or what could be the tools, what could be the approach, how we want to implement? That is where the architects will help from the implementation perspective.
Got it, Satish. Okay.
Okay, so we want to implement it, but before going into that, we might have to check on the technical feasibility as well. Yeah, that's why the architects are also involved in this. That too, the reason is this prioritization technique is used either at the initiative level, at the organization level, or at the program level, or the where the release train or the features will be brought into consideration.
Got it, Satish. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So usually what happens is the business owners, product management, and product owners, right? They have a huge wish list, right? So they want their system to be perfect and have all the latest trends, all the built in the system. They want AI in the system. They want big data in the system, right? And whatnot, right? So they have the big wish list. It's the technical architects that bring them down to the earth and say that be realistic. We do not have capability to do AI yet, right? So that somehow balance them out. And I think architects are important, as they will be important to give an estimate of job size. So that is some for job sizing you can refer to them. What do you think? Is it a big technical change, or is it a small technical change? And accordingly you can size your jobs. And Satish, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember it that all these values, right? Business value, time criticality. So all of them are relative to each other, right? So if I have multiple jobs, I will be doing a relative estimation that which one gives me more value and which one gives me less value. It's not like I put a
Yes.
number to
Yes,
one particular
exactly.
item, right? Yes, it's relative
No,
estimation.
it is a relative estimate.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, and also the system architects play a crucial role when it comes to the time criticality as well, right? So we might be having some fixed deadlines or the timelines, but what if within the timelines we might not be able to get it done on our own? Then we might have to go for the third-party APIs or the tools or existing um, uh, source code or anything else. Then that is where the architects will be raising a question or a clarification to the business owners. Hey, if we have to do it, we might be able to get it done in 10K, but we might need 6 months of time. Because of the hard stop of 3 months, we might have to go for a third-party API or a tool, which might cost us 25K. Are you okay to sponsor that? Are you okay to take that from your budget? Right. So that is the discussion which could be happening along with the prioritization. That's the reason these participants are invited or involved in the prioritization of the using the WSJF technique.
I have another question. So all these values for the business value, time criticality, risk reduction, they're all being quantified at this point of time. And only if the organization takes some data-based decisions, then it probably makes sense to calculate all these things, come up with a number, and then go by mathematically. We try to associate this with a number and then try to say, okay, this feature has this priority 1, 5, 4, whatever the kind of the Fibonacci sequence or whatever is made. Only if these each individual values have been quantified, and if the organization encourages data-based decisions. However, if you look at the agile values and the principles, it says that integration over tools. So how do we come to a
Yes. So all this thing is, if you observe, we are bringing these individuals together and we are trying to make them have an interaction among themselves. Of course, yes, we are trying to make them follow a process and make use of this tool or a process to come up with that. But end of the day, this is being done to come up with a working software to the customers. Right? And the whole focus is how quickly, how effectively we can deliver value to the customer or end user. For that reason, again, as we discussed earlier, we are trying to use different approaches or the different techniques. How soon, how quick, how early we can try to bring in the prioritization or the actual working software to the end users. There is an overall essence of why we are using all these, whether it comes to the story slicing, whether it comes to the prioritization, whether it comes to the continuous integration or the continuous deployment. Any of these or all of these is with the focus of how soon, how quick we can deliver value to the end user or the customers. That's the only focus we are looking at it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. And I have a working example of how the cost of delay happened or the cost of delay was executed. This was done with one of the previous team. Let me show in an Excel sheet if it could be easy. Yes. So I uploaded this into a Google Drive. I will be sharing the link so that you can go through it. And I prepared this template. If in case you want to, you can go through it and you can use this template again, if in case you want to make use of it. But how typically whenever I execute or I run this WJF approach is, first I will list down all the features which are to be prioritized at that point of time. Then as a first step, what are the approach, what are the technique the participants do? I ask them to prioritize whether it could be Moscow, whether it could be any other Cano or Rice model or any model, or however they want to, they can be doing it. Then one by one, first step is to ask them to fill in the user business value column, stating that, okay, from compared to the user registration, what could be the next feature or the next functionality looks like? Will it give more business value or less business value? So do a relative comparison and fill in the values. Once the user business value is done, then comes the time criticality. Again, finish the column, then move on to the third column, risk reduction and opportunity enablement. And I already calculated the formula of some of these three. This cost of delay will be coming up. By default, I kept the job size as 1, because if you want to ignore, if you don't want to use it, yes, we can still go ahead and get the WSJF. But if in case we want to make use and we can get it done, we will be, let's suppose I change it. Yes, the values, the WSJF also will get auto calculated by the sum of cost of delay divided by job size. Once that is done, what manually we need to do is the revised priority. So here, if you look at it, all the values came up here for all the 18 features or 18 functionalities. What is the highest value? So if you look at it, or from the overall column, payment at checkout is the highest WSJF. So that is the feature which should get the score of 1. Then the second is communication through text. And then the third is the access past order history. And then the fourth is return or replace items. This is done for a online shopping cart project, so dummy project. So that's why the features are like that. So yes, so that is how, based upon what is the highest value WSJF, that will go as a first priority feature, then second, then third, like that. So that is how we can make use of this WSJF template, and we can start. Once everything is done, it might take 1.5 hours, 2 hours, or at times maybe 3-4 hours as well. Once everything is done, then what I will be asking the participants is cross-check how your initial priorities came versus how your revised priorities came. So which of these both is making more relevance, making more benefit or value add from the implementation perspective, whether the initial prioritization or whether the revised prioritization as per WSJF. Yes, so it is up to them. They would like to go ahead and prioritize. End of the day, they all own that prioritization, right? So we as a coaches, we can help them understand, bring up the different process or the approaches, but the product managers, product owners are the ones who will be owning that prioritization. So it is up to them how they want to go ahead and make use of that prioritization. Okay, are you good? Any questions?
So personally, Satish, I feel that WSJF, right, it ignores a very important criteria, that is dependencies. So let's say my feature 1, which is my payment, right? It has a dependency that I add item to the cart and other things, right? So payment maybe prioritized as number 1, but it is something that we cannot do it upfront. So we have to consider the process flow as well, and then you know,
yes.
maybe look into the prioritization again.
Yes, and this WSJF is not just done once and done. We might be revisiting, revising as and when required. Yeah. So yes, as we get to know more information, like as Shipra mentioned, if we get to know more information or more clarity, yes, without adding items to the shopping cart or without the items available, we might not be able to do that payment at checkout. So if that is the case, yes, maybe we can reprioritize. we can bring up that prioritization as a context. Yes, Kirti, you have a question?
Yeah. Yes. So I can understand the logic behind how the initial prioritization was done, Satish, right? But when I look at the revised priority, right, I somehow find it not so realistic. Say, for example, right, let's say if I'm building a e-cart website, right, when I look at the first feature, which is user registration, right, I agree that it will have a very less user business value. Time criticality is also relatively less. Risk reduction compared to the payment gateway, I think it is relatively higher than the other features, but yeah, compared to the payment gateway, it is less. But all said and done, right? If I don't have a user registration process in place, right, then I won't have. I mean, I won't be able to deliver value for the product, right? I need to customize the e-card feature for each customer, right? So having said that, and also I need to have that firewall between multiple users. So if I keep it as a 50 feature to implement, right, and if I like going by the order that we see in the Excel, right? If I first implement the payment code feature first, right? And let's say I launch it to market, and by the time I reach my 15th feature, right? I think significant impact would have already been created on the application. I mean, significant negative impact already happened, right, Satish?
Yes, yes, yes. So yes, Kirti, I agree with you. So this is the dummy values with the dummy team, dummy participants, everything. Like just intentionally we made these values come up. Yes, I agree with you. That the user registration should be getting higher priority or highest thing when compared to the other things. If that is the case, what typically would be happening is the participants of that specific session, they need to discuss, are these values realistic, right? Why that is given only as a score of 3? As you mentioned, if we were able to get that user registration done, we might be getting more benefit, or we might be able to make sure the user can be placing multiple orders without entering their shipping address, without entering their billing details or anything as such. And they can access the past order history, a lot of those things. If that is the case, this risk reduction or opportunity enablement might be getting more score. Right?
Got it, Satish. Yes.
Satish, can I add something? Yeah. Say,
Sure,
Satish.
sure, Sandeep.
Kirti, maybe before you even launch a product, you need to take a look at something which is called an MVP, minimum viable product. So if you take a look at your minimum viable product, what's your focus here? I mean, it follows the Moscow again. So if you look at minimum viable product, you want to sell the product first, or add customer driven value first. So based on that, you'll have to prioritize those features. Ship with a minimum viable product, which is like you need to have the product shown, the product payment is done, etc. The value add can be achieved later, right? So it has to be prioritized. So that's why this weighted shortest job first or Moscow is used to prioritize what is that you want to deliver as MVP.
But again, Sandeep, let's say if I follow Moscow policy, like Moscow approach, let's say there is one feature that I put it as under must have, right? But when I put it under WSJF, there is a threat that this might basically get a lower weightage, though it should be a must have feature. Just because it's having a lower weightage, the deployment of that feature might actually get pulled to future sprints, isn't it?
It is there, so it's, I mean, advisable, not advised to have multiple prioritization methods used on the same product. You either use Moscow or you use WSJF and stick with it. Okay. So if you
No,
keep using multiple them, you'll get different values maybe for each of those features. Maybe top 3 would remain the same, but going down the line, the 4th and 5th will differ in each of the 3 prioritization methods.
So Sandeep, my recommendation will be different here. So depending on product stage, you can decide which prioritization technique you want to use. So for example, if you are building a product from scratch, right, you do not have anything in place. So in that case, you decide the what my process will be like, and you have to go with the dependencies only. So you build first, the login screen, and then the workflow, and then at the end, the last stage of the product. So at that time, you do not have much choices and you have to go with the process flow. But once you have your MVP in place, you have your process flow in place, now you have come up with a list of features which you want to add to the product. And that time you can switch over to your prioritization technique to WSJF, because that is the point where your dependencies have been resolved. You already have MVP in place. So you switch your prioritization technique and you say that, I have these 5 features. Let me go with the feature which can deliver more value in shorter period of time. Right. So
Yeah, Shipra, I agree. I am just saying for one particular phase of the project, don't use 2 prioritization methods. So yes, you are right.
Yes.
After maybe go with WSJF, that is fine. But don't use Moscow with WGS for the same second phase.
So as you can see here, right? So initial prioritization is a ranking system, right? So what Satish has done is he has ranked his feature. This is my first feature, this is my second feature. So he has used ranking system, and then he is using WSJF system to have a revised priority. But the idea is for a business analyst to make informed decisions, right? So when I'm looking at it from ranking perspective, I'm not looking into the business value aspect of it at all, right? I'm not looking into the time criticality factor. But now I have worked out my WSJF and I have done my ranking, I have WJS. So it helps me make better decisions, right?
No.
It helps me make informed decisions that yes, whatever ranking I want to go with, it includes all the aspects which I should be looking at. And that's how why Satish has included initial prioritization column in the first place. He could have easily got rid of it. But I appreciated him that he has done an initial prioritization, which is my ranking method, and then he has done WSJF, and that gives more information to the business analyst to make the revised rankings. But
Okay.
it doesn't
So,
mean that you have to go with
Shipra,
WSJF only.
yeah. So Shipra, my question here is if you went with ranking first and you don't trust ranking now, what has changed here?
Yeah. So, but
So did you not have all the information at the time of ranking method to make this decision of prioritization?
but you might be ignoring the fact, right? So you
Yeah.
have
So
all the
I mean,
information, but you might be ignoring them.
so
Or
if you are ignoring, that's your own mistake at the time of prioritization, right? If you have the
So,
information and you ignore
but
it, that's your
no.
choice.
So but
so
when you are applying WSJF, right, it makes you think. So if I just take an example of acceptance criteria, right, you can write shall statements. User shall be able to do this, user shall be able to do that, right? But a method is introduced to make you think, given, when, then. So think about what is given, think about what is
So,
when, think about what is
so,
then. It
so
makes you think. So all these techniques, right, they are there for helping you out. They are there to make you think in a particular manner. So maybe when you are doing ranking, you just go to the business client and say that, what do you want first, what do you want second. And that time business, you are only considering business value because you're talking to your business person only. But you are not bringing in architecture's point of view in that. You're not bringing in
yes.
product
So
manager's point of view in that, right?
So
But
agreed, Shipra. So what you said is for the first is we are just capturing values. We are not ranking it. We just got the ranking from a business point of view. We shouldn't be making decisions only on that information itself, right? We need
exactly,
to collect more things.
exactly.
So
exactly,
but
Yes.
my question is, if you had all the information, why would you go with ranking and not WJF at the first moment itself?
no. So you go for,
So,
if you are collecting
that's
information, right?
yeah, so
If
that is my question. Like my answer was like at every phase where you get more and more information, you keep revising all of this. But at the
hmm,
first phase where you did not have enough information, you just went with ranking, just
yes,
the business ranking.
yes, of
Yes.
course.
Like you
Yes.
mentioned,
That's
you had
correct.
a
Yes.
second session with the architects, you had other stakeholders, the financiers, the end users, what the end user want to see. So maybe based on all this information, you keep revising it. But at a point of time, you should have only one prioritization method. That's
Yeah,
what my only thought is.
Yeah, so what will happen, Sandeep, if you go over that, right? So let's say you check with your clients and they rank your features based on your business values, and then you go in and you check with your architect for more information, right? And then architect will say that okay, I agree, this is more business value, but this is not something we are ready for, right? We do not have capabilities, we do not have technology to do this. As I mentioned, uh, uh, user might be thinking, I want AI into my system, but technical architect will say, we are not ready for AI yet. So you have brought in another component, right? And now you are confused whether you want to go with business value or you want to go with technical architecture's recommendation. And then what you will do is you'll set up another meeting, a third meeting, to bring both of them together and say that, this is what you are saying, this is what you are saying, let's agree on the final one. But instead, if you start with the with this approach only, and if you say, we all are here in this one meeting, I'm putting business value, I'm putting time criticality, I'm putting risk reduction, let's all agree on the values which we want to put in, and in the one meeting itself, you are done with the prioritization. So there are different aspects, right? So when you are doing ranking, you may not have an approach to technical architect. So the idea here is to understand different prioritization techniques from Satish, and then decide what is best for your product, or what is best for that project, or what is best at that point in time. So as you mentioned, we will keep on getting new information, we will keep on revising our techniques, right? But the idea is that if you are aware that there is something as WSJF exists in the world, right, you'll start from that only, rather than switching between people and then trying to figure out what needs to be done. So you can directly jump in with this approach and say that, these are my prioritization, but I also understand that something with a value of 60, like payment checkout, it is not possible to deliver it first and without even having user registration, or without having people having option to add to the cart. But when you are ranking it, keeping in mind these values, then it is something like more informed decisions you are making, and it is cutting down on the time.
Again, my question is, you are basing all of this assumption on the information that you have everything at the day one itself, right?
No, we
Only
are
then
not.
you will go with the WSJF, right?
No, we are not saying
What if
everything.
if you have only business value on day one, what will you rank it with? Which technique will you use?
No, so if you only have business value, then see, there is no one size fit all, right? So let's say you have business value, but you have to cater for other aspects as well. So dependencies is another aspect which you have to cater for. You have to look at technical, readiness as well. So something might be important, but your team is in the process of hiring that particular resource with that particular skill set, right? So it is something you cannot say that start at day one, because the source itself is not there to do that. So you have to decide, based on what's the current position is.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that once you know which your phase of the project you are in, use one technique only. I'm not saying don't go with this or don't go with that. I'm saying if you are at day one and you only have business value, maybe go with Moscow. Maybe at a day two, or
Yes,
maybe at
yes,
2 weeks
Sandeep,
down the
yes,
line. Yeah.
that's
Yeah, of course.
obviously.
Yeah.
And Kirti, coming to your question, right? So, why the payment at checkout is prioritized as one, or the second priority feature is communication through text, right? Here in the WSJF, we are involving the architects as well, right? So, if we have to start with user registration, we as a team, we as an organization has all the required information, all the knowledge, all the technical skill set and the expertise to get that registration done, for example. But we might have to deal with the third-party vendors or the APIs to do the payment checkouts. Same is the case with the integration with the third-party vendors to communicate or through generate that SMS and send the communication through text. That could be the reason these might have prioritized as a top feature. So the first set, these should go into the implementation. And again, we are not saying that each and every feature, as and when it is done, we might be releasing it to the customer, to the market, might not be. And that to the reason is in the scale agile approach, multiple teams will be working on in parallel. So while this payment team is working on this, the login or the authentication team might be working on the user registration or the other aspects of that part.
Got it, Satish.
Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it does, Satish. Yes. So from this I think this is a very good conversation. And what I realized is, based on the maturity of the requirement, right, we can choose a prioritization technique. Say, just like we discussed.
Yes.
If we
Yes.
only know the business value, it is safe to stick with Moscow. But if we have more information, time criticality, risk reduction, even job size is a very important factor, right? So in line in example that we just discussed, the product owners are highly demanding, and then the tech arc will say that but we are not technically mature to handle this requirement. So this will immediately bump up the job size, and then that will put more weight, that is going to pull down my WSJF value. So only if we have sufficient information around all these parameters, I should switch from Moscow to this WSJF. So it all depends on parameters that each of the prioritization technique uses that govern which technique I should choose at which phase of the project.
Exactly. Yes. So again, it is all up to us, whoever is going into the prioritization approach, which approach is beneficial, which approach is convenient or comfortable for us. Yes, we can go ahead with that. That's the reason I mentioned it is up to the product owners and the product managers and the business analysts. They can pick and choose which could be more convenient or comfortable for them to go ahead and get started with that. Right? So sometimes we might say Moscow is sufficient. Yes, we can go ahead with that. But at times, if we can see there is some drastic improvement or drastic benefit of making use of these other approaches like a Kano model, RICE model, or this WSJF or any other approach, yes, then definitely we can at least try once and see how it is coming up. Again, next time it is up to us as a team which approach we want to continue. Right?
Thanks, Satish. Thanks, Shipra.
Sure. Thanks, Shipra, Kirti, and Sandeep. Nice interaction.
Thanks, guys. It was a very good conversation.
Sure. So we going back to the Miro board, the RICE for the time being we will keep it aside because again this will bring up different discussion altogether. So let's park it aside. So if you want, we can go ahead and have the prioritization using Moscow, or we can directly go ahead with the WSJF prioritization. It is up to you how you want to go ahead and do the hands-on session.
I'll suggest a WSJF because many have not done it.
Okay, sure. So then I think I shared the I will share the Google Drive link. I gave the public access, so you all should be having access to this. Let's check and confirm me once. So I created through two groups, driver group and passenger group. Remember in the previous sessions, we started with that ride sharing app. So the same features, I prepared the list as part of the driver group. We can go to the WSJF template. The features which we listed as part of the user story mapping template or the technique which we did in one of the previous sessions. I listed those features, 20 features. The same way we have the features listed for the passenger as well. So we can now split into two groups, half of us into driver group and half of us into the passenger group. We can ignore the initial prioritization. You can go ahead with these three components and discuss how you want to score, how you want to rate it. You can have a discussion. And the cost of delay is auto calculated, and job size for the time being you can ignore or you can keep it aside. Just try to have the conversation and see how the discussion is happening. The main intention is the individuals and interaction. So that's the thing, how each of you could be bringing different perspectives, different pointers for these things. Yes, that is what the whole session is about. Okay.
One question, Satish, is there a particular reason why some features are in bold and others are
Nothing. I meant to just in the previous, I reuse the same template. I just highlighted which is the top priority features as per the initial score versus the revised score. That's it. So otherwise, no difference as such. I reuse the same template, but otherwise nothing as such. Okay. So yes. So how we want to go ahead? You want to go ahead as a auto breakout, or you want to pick and choose which group you want? It's up to you. You will
Yeah, let's
have
go
to
with
break
auto.
out auto. Okay. Okay. Can you all confirm whether you have the access to the Google Drive? And please don't delete anything as such. You can download the template. Template is already available, but the driver and passenger, let it be as is. Don't overwrite or don't delete or anything as such. Okay. Yes, we have 10:20 now. Much time we have 30 minutes so that we can use the last 10 minutes for wrapping up.
So Satish, I'll since the time is less, what I'll suggest is let's not prioritize all 50
Yes,
features. Let's pick up first
it's up
5
to you
and
as yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A limited set.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
I've done this activity and it can take a lot of time discussing and
I know.
figuring out.
I
So
know.
let's pick up first 5 features and prioritize them. At least we'll be able to complete that
Sure.
in half an hour.
Sure. So I'm opening the breakout for the 30 minutes. Yes. 30 minutes. Let's get started. Welcome back. I know 30 minutes, very short time, but how is the discussion?
It was fantastic, very interactive.
Good to know. Okay, so yes, we have 8 more minutes. Who would like to go ahead and share the screen and quick recap of how the discussion went and what is your observations?
Yeah, Satish, I think I can. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, Shipra, you're able to.
Okay. So we were prioritizing features, registering driver, updating driver profile, identifying passengers within 10 kilometers, choosing preferred pickup point and choosing preferred drop points. So from business value perspective, we think updating driver profile is least is the least one, which is giving business value to me. So I kept it as 1, and then comparative to that, registering driver is a 5. Pickup point and drop point are more or less the same features. Though we have split up, but they are at the same level. So I have kept them at 8, and identifying passengers is the most business valuable thing that I want to go with. So the business value wise, it is 13. So as a team, we have decided that these should be the rankings. Again, from time criticality perspective, we think updating driver profile is 1, and identifying passengers is an 8. That I do not want my competition to pick up my passengers just because I delivered it late. And accordingly, registering driver is 5, and pickup and drop points are 3. Then we discussed on risk reduction. We think if my driver is not registered, or we are not giving an option to the driver to update their profile, then we will not have driver information. So that we can end up into security issues and passenger risk safety issues. So that's why risk reduction wise, these are most most important ones. So identifying passengers, though it is giving me more business value, but it's not a risky proposition. So that is one. And then registering driver is 21 and updating driver profile is 13. Pickup and drop points, again, we kept it at 8 because if I'm not getting dropped at my location and I'm getting dropped somewhere else, maybe it could be a secluded area or isolated area, then I might end up into security issues. So we have kept it as 8. So that gives me cost of delay. That gives because we didn't have time, we didn't get chance to discuss on the job size, but yeah, for the timing we kept it as 1. So that gives me weighted shortest job first, and then we have ranked it. So 15 is 1, and then 19s are 2, and 22 is 3, and 31 is 4. But we think from process flow perspective, right? So we cannot give update driver profile feature that as the first feature. We need to give register driver feature a ranking of 1, even if the weightage it is the weighted shortest job first one. So
Shipra, let me give a quick pointer.
mhm.
Whatever is the highest WSJF, that should get the rank as 1, which means the registered driver should be the 1.
Okay.
And so your revised ranking is the correct ranking, not the column H.
Okay, so that was a miss from my side then.
Sure,
So
sure.
this
Yes.
is
But
this is
yes,
like this,
you
right?
got a revised ranking, which is the appropriate ranking. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Then that is even better because my revised ranking matches up with my weighted shortest
Exactly.
job first.
Exactly. Yes. So
Yeah.
you understood the concept. Yes.
Yeah. So is my understanding correct that whichever is giving me least value is 1, whichever is least
Exactly.
time critical is 1, and whichever
Yes.
is least risky is 1, right? So these are my least
Yes.
columns. But
Exactly.
if I'm ranking it, I'm going with the more number. So
Exactly. Yes,
that's
that's
kind
correct.
of my reverse. Okay. Yeah, I was going in the least mode only. So yeah,
Sure.
my bad. But yeah,
Sure, sure.
this is what we came up with.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Shipra. And team. Okay, nice discussion. Okay, yes. How about the other team? And I already gave the feedback link. You can start filling up the feedback in the meantime. Okay, yes. Passenger team, would like to go ahead and share the screen. Pari, if in case you are speaking, you're on mute. Pari, we are unable to hear you.
Hi. Anyone wants to take it up, or like, should I go ahead?
You can proceed.
Okay. So as per the discussion, like we felt like the registration of passenger is very critical, because without that, we don't know the person who is going to take the ride, and for security reasons. So the user business value is also 20, and the time critically we have given as 13. And the risk reduction opportunity is also 20, because as Satish explained, like there is a risk involved if we don't know who the passenger is. So KYC for passenger, as per the government rules, also is a highly required feature. So we have marked it as 20. Again, user business value is 20, and since it's a highly required feature, KYC, we have marked it as 20. The same thing for risk reduction. So update passenger profile, is we have set it as 8 because already we have registration
Right.
feature. So this update passenger profile we have given as 8. And similarly, we have given the user business value as 13. Since it's a low feature
Fine,
actors
fine.
and criteria, the time critically also we have given 5, and we don't see much risk in that. So risk reduction opportunities have given us 5. Check passenger rating, we felt it is
30.
a little more important because for a driver, it is important to know what kind of person he is going to take a ride. For the user, it's not much. Again, it is not that critical feature to be implemented and not much risk to the system. So risk reduction is 8. Moving on to driver profile, providing driver reviews. Also, we thought it is critical as it helps other passengers to know the kind of driver they're having. So it gives a lot of user business value. So we have given a higher rating for it. So accordingly, we have a higher time criticality. Again, we felt that the risk reduction is not much risk to the system. Identifying cabs within 10 kilometers route, I thought we felt like it is it's a very important feature to be implemented because that is one of the main points which passengers will look for while taking a cab. So it's a high user business value. Time criticality is 13. And risk reduction, yeah, we have mentioned is like it doesn't cause much risk to the system if not implemented. So we are given a less value. Prefer point and dropping point, again, we felt both these two are highly important. So we have given us 20. So similarly, we have other ratings too. Our last is the display price option. This also price is also we felt like something which the passengers look for. So that is 20. So the user business values are high. Time criticality is 13 and risk is 20. I don't remember why risk is 20. Thanks, Satish.
If money is involved, there is always risk on higher side.
Yes, yes.
So we
yes.
always keep it on higher side.
The reason is like based upon the price displayed, the customer might be choosing whether they want to go for the ride or not. Yes, there is a reason. Yes, there's a reason. It is not a risky, but it is enabling the opportunity. Yes.
We completely left out this revised priority. It didn't come in our discussion.
Sure. No worries. But yes, see now the revised priority will be the second feature, which has a score of 60, will be the first one.
KYC updation.
Yeah, the KYC updation, and then the
First one.
First one.
First and ninth one.
First and ninth one is
First
second.
one is registration and ninth one is
the
payment,
display of the price.
Price.
The price, yes. Then 48, which is row number 7. Yes. Then was the 4. Yes. Then 5.
5.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yes. This is what the thing. Yes, we know we have only 30 minutes of time, but yes, with the known information, with the known pointers, we are able to come up with this. Yes. So that is how again we can come up with the prioritization if in case we are using the WSJF as a technique.
I have a question, Satish, 2 questions in fact. So let's say my COD divided by job JS is same. So will we give same ranking to them, or then we will also try to prioritize among those features with the same ranking?
Yeah, two things. Pari, if you can scroll right, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. See, if we here we got WSJF as same for the feature 1 and feature 9, 53, right? So here we haven't considered the job size, so there is no other way. But if in case we have considered job size as such, right? So let's suppose the cost of delay of the first feature is 106 and the job size is 2. When 106 divided by 2 became 53. Whereas the feature 9, the job cost of delay is 53 and job size is 1. Even then it got as a 53. So both got same WSJF score. Then we can go with which of these has more cost of delay comparatively.
Okay.
Right? But here, because we ignored or we haven't considered job size, we got 2 features as the same score. That's the reason we can go with both as the same priority.
Okay.
Or one of it we can then we can discuss among these. Okay, which of these could be more relevant? Which should go second or which should go third?
And let's say we put 2 for both of them. So the next number will be 4 or the next number will be 3.
It's up to us, right? So again, it is just all for our own internal thing. Yes, we can go for 3 or we can go for 4. Anything is fine.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Any last minute questions? Thanks for such a wonderful discussion. Yes, it helped a lot.
It's absolutely help and a lot of value addition actually.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
that was
Yeah,
really a nice
thank you
session.
so much. It was definitely a learning curve for me. Yeah.
Thanks.
So Satish, I want to ask you one question. When you're planning for the next session?
I started with that only.
It's like like to say the next release in next Friday movie.
So yes, next 2 weeks busy with the Dasra vacation. Then my kids' exams are coming up. So yes, towards October end we can plan one session.
Sure.
And what would be the topic considered for the next session?
That also we can discuss in the group. We have more prioritization technique itself, or any other technique or any other topic which you want to do hands-on. Yes, we can do that. It's up to us.
One small question. So with so many prioritization techniques, is there a way that we can do it in combination and then still come to a conclusion? Is it even possible, or it is a hypothetical question?
I guess that's a question which Sandeep or someone brought up, right? So try to stick to one of it rather than bringing a combination, because it might create a confusion at some point of time. Right. So better not to. Again, if you want to try it out, we can give it a try. But at some point of time, someone or other might get confused, which we don't want.
So what is the current trend like? Which technique particularly used in majority level?
At least in
Moscow.
At least in my case, I can say there is absolutely no prioritization. It's basically the stakeholders or the project sponsors. They say this needs to be done, no question asked, and the development team goes ahead and then starts implementing as much as they can. The minute you say no or oppose it, then there is a issue. So frankly speaking, considering my experience, this is a very small startup company that I'm working, like around 30 people. So absolutely there is zero prioritization, zero process found. It's like the boss says it, people do it. If you do not follow, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, HIPPO, highest paid prioritization.
But maybe in the bigger companies, things happen because there is more structure, more process and everything. However, I was looking up on the Microsoft Teams documentation. They have mentioned there specifically that, agile is greater than any kind of process being followed, like agile greater than practices followed. So I'm guessing, if I mean, those are all like the top companies, right? And many other small companies try to kind of copy paste what the top companies do, even though they very well, I don't know if they're in the reality, like a small company cannot be equivalent to Microsoft. If Microsoft says that, they have a lot of things to back it up. But a small company cannot be doing that, even though they blindly copy paste it. So overall picture I'm getting is being agile is greater than practices, greater than processes. So just to make sure that you deliver it to the customer and keep customers happy, going by the very first principle of agile, and rest is all forgotten.
But Menka, you will sure learn over a period of time that processes has their own charm and practices have their own charm. So somewhere down the
I mean,
line,
if you
right? So because the thing is, yeah.
right,
So
right.
right
But if
now
you
it's
go by
all
the
through pressure. Yeah.
True. But if you go really by the PMBOK 7, it definitely is bringing in like people, processes, and business in place. I don't know how truly, genuinely the organizations are following. And Agile Manifesto is like 2001 last updated. So I don't know how it is aligned. And if you go by the PMI ACP, they only talk about interactions and interactions and interaction. There's no tools used. There's no formula used. There's no data quantifiers used. They feel that this is all like an overhead. So it is very hard to argue or to debate with the stakeholders where there is higher power, you know.
Yeah, just go with the flow.
We could feel that your organization is using the current approach, Menaka. No tools, no process.
Oh yeah, definitely. At least by now you should.
It's a beginning. It's a beginning of new technique.
They are only 5
No, but there is no, I mean, if you practically think, there's no way you can catch up with the market. I mean, knowledge yesterday is already a day old today. You know, things are changing so rapidly. It is very hard to keep up with the pace. It is just that they're pretending and simulating that they're doing it to the best. And I don't know. I have my own perspective there, but I'm not at a higher power to convince them. I just follow their directions. But keeping all this knowledge apart, wisdom apart, practically speaking, I feel that nothing of this has worked, at least in my current org. I mean, they even fired the product manager, so it says a lot.
So you're in observation technique mode.
Huh?
You're in observation technique mode.
Yeah, as a learner, as I'm very new to this, I'm shifting from technical to the business side. This is definitely a learning curve, but I've actually learned a lot from these forums as opposed to my organization itself. You know, thanks to the beautiful, wonderful, wise people here. So, but yeah, nothing of this has been followed so far at the org level. Or at least it has not been transparent to my level. Maybe I might be wrong, but this is all my hunch talking. But yeah, but from the way it is going with the sprint reports and everything, when I'm trying to view the data, nothing has been followed. It's like they come in every day, priority changes, and then they throw a feature saying that, oh, you need to work on this because we paid that guy so much. You know, it's all about risk, value, effort. So when it comes to the cost in the small startup companies, nothing of this will work. Maybe it works in a mid-size and the larger companies, who knows? But I'm just speaking out of my experience and sharing with you all.
Makes sense, Menaka. But I have a slightly different school of thought coming to Agile and other methodologies, right? So, excuse me. So at least from my understanding, no project follows 100% Agile or no project follows 100% waterfall, right? They always follow a mixture, right? Say for example, you would I mean, generally you would start with some level of waterfall to understand, to agree upon what should be the baseline feature that your tool should have, right? And then that will determine what are all your non-functional requirements. Because I could still recollect from one of the conversations that we had in one of the weekend sessions that non-functional requirement is like super critical. So if we consider that at last, then we might end up rebuilding the entire project in a different technology just because it was not aligned with the actual need. So I think for getting into that shape, some extent of waterfall would really help. And after that, we can basically switch to agile to see what are all the new add-ons that we can basically bring in. So on any project scenario, what I feel is we always work on a combination. So there is no 100% agile or 100% waterfall.
Yes, see that is a great middle ground, right? I mean, going hybrid is much more better than being a pure agilist company. And I don't think so there's anything like a pure agilist company. I mean, how far, if you go from a holistic perspective, if the stakeholders are demanding these many features and everything, if the development team is doing all sort of things to keep them happy, there is some amount of the mental discomfort that the development team has, and they might not be there will be surely a burn down, and that factor has not been considered at all. So it's like, do what I say. So basically it's a very like a higher powers are, they're very dogmatic, and it's so hard to change their mind. So if that is the case, then you basically have to forget about all the things that you have made effort to learn and just go with the flow. If that is not the case, then you at least can pitch in your ideas, come up with some guidelines and practices and so on and so forth. So I don't know, I myself, I'm a little confused.
Meeta, learning never goes waste, right? You might
right.
Exactly.
you will not be you will not be working in the same project or same product your entire life. You will be switching over, and then you will be needing new teams and new people and new processes. At that point in time, you never know what one of these learnings that you are having right now will keep in handy to you, right? So
definitely, that's why I made that statement, saying that knowledge is the highest. So like I said, thanks to this forum.
Yeah. So just one note for all of our audience. We, the BA Club, right? We host a session every Saturday, 9:30 p.m. IST. Satish is conducting the WebEx sessions as part of the BA Club. He also conducts other sessions as well. He has a YouTube channel. He has pasted the link of the YouTube channel in the chat window. You can visit his website and take the recordings of this session as well as for our previous sessions. But other than that, we are also conducting these discussions over Clubhouse. Clubhouse is an app which you can download. So we host sessions every Saturday, 9:30 p.m. IST. We'll take up one or the other business analysis topic, and we also request you to be a speaker on one of the topics someday down the line. If you want to join us on the Telegram group. Just search for THEBACLUB, the BA Club, in the Telegram search area, and it will give you the club. So it's a public group which you can join us, and I'll be sharing the link for the upcoming sessions in the group. Very soon we are going to be taking a break because of Diwali festivals and other festivals coming up. So we usually take a break from Diwali season to end of the summer, and then we resume again. So this time on also we are going to do the same. So we are going to take a break for after 2-3 more sessions, and then maybe we'll reconvene for Sati's session if he's ready. Otherwise we'll resume on next year. So we still have 2 more sessions to go. So do make use of this opportunity. Don't miss out on the sessions, and join us on the BA Club.
Shipra, can you please repeat how to join the BA Club? I did not get that.
So you need to install Telegram first. In the Telegram search area, you need to search for THEBACLUB.
It's all in continuation or any space?
No spaces.
Satish has just messaged it in chat.
Yeah, so those spaces, the BA Club, you'll get the club, join us there. I'll share the link as soon as I get some speakers and I decide, get a confirmation on the topic. So do join us there. And
so whatever the sessions are conducted in the past, can we get the recordings for that as well, which were happened in the BA Club?
It's on YouTube. It's available on YouTube. I'm just checking.
Acha, oh, those are also on YouTube. Okay.
No,
Yeah,
not
so Moshami, to clarify, the Zoom sessions, the hands-on sessions are available on the YouTube,
Okay.
whereas the
Okay.
regular weekly sessions, which Shipra mentioned, which will be posted on Clubhouse, those are not recorded. There is just a open
Oh.
forum in the discussion, right? So those are not recorded. Only the hands-on activities. This is the fourth session which we conducted. So all these four sessions is
Okay.
hosted on YouTube channel.
Yeah. So the BA club sessions are audio only. There are no visuals. There are no presentations, right? So
Okay.
it is quite monotonous to go through the discussions, and then the discussions also go into different tangents. But yeah, so we do not record those sessions. Some of the latest sessions did got recorded. So you can find them on our Clubhouse BA Club. So again, in Clubhouse also you can search for the BA Club, and you'll get the link for that. You can join
Yeah,
us.
I joined the BA club just now. Is there any other clubhouse is also there, or this is the only one?
So Clubhouse also has a BA club, but even if you don't join it, I will be sharing the link for the session, so you can join it via the session. So you need to download the Clubhouse app from Play Store or
Okay.
yes.
Satish, one update from my side, like the Excel sheet, that passenger group, which I filled, right? So I have shared it to your email. So if anybody is requesting, you can send it to them.
Sure. It is available on the Google folder. Everyone should be having access. But if not,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
definitely I will share it. Yeah.
Okay.
And before wrapping up, one small point, like as Manika mentioned. So Manika, at times what happens is this prioritization or the concepts, the techniques, approach, whatever we discuss, at times might go for toss. Right? If your competitor is like Ambani's, right? We are Airtel, for example. If your competitor is a Reliance or Jio, rather than we going with our prioritization, our scope, we might be looking at what the competitors are doing. The scope, the priorities, everything might get changed based upon that. Okay? The same goes with Amazon versus Flipkart or the mobiles or any industry, any domain asset. So that could be also the reason why the priorities might get changed randomly, drastically. We might have to understand that perspective as well. Yes, whatever the process, the theory which we discussed, everything might go for toss. And another example, like the banking, we typically discuss. What happened that when Narendra Modi came and announced that effective from midnight, all the big parties around scope we already started working, but everything on hold and need to pick up the different work, which is not at all in the scope at all. Right? Then we won't discuss Moscow, WSJF, Cano, nothing. That is the must ensure that updates should be happening on the fly at the earliest, shortest possible time. That's it. Right? The same things might apply for each and every industry, domain, sector as well.
So that brings to a question, is there a future for the business analyst, scrum master, project manager jobs?
Yes,
because
why not?
Satish, the way AI is going, I don't think so.
Let's hope for the best.
Okay. Yeah, even though the PMI Institute says that there is a demand of this, I don't know, with the currently how things are going, it might soon end.
But the basic work will still remain, Menaka, right? Maybe the job title, the composition of the work might differ, but the basic work of gathering the requirement, prioritization, all these will still remain, right? Someone will have to do when it comes to a project, right? These are the essential parts of the project which cannot be challenged.
Yeah.
And even if the AI and other things come up, one of us might be inputting that logic into that tool or the system, right? It won't be doing all of a sudden on its own. We need, someone has to input, okay, this is our business, this is our domain, this is our expertise. So this could be the logic, or this could be the way how we do the prioritization, how we define the user story, how we bring up the release planning, all those things. Yes, still the human intervention might be required. It might not be to the way how we are doing right now, but yes, definitely the constant changes are coming up. We all will be focused on that continuous learning. Yes, that's the part.
Yeah. True.
Okay, thanks for a wonderful, energized audience. We extended by 25 minutes still. We're all here. Thanks for taking your time out on a weekend, and wish you all a happy festive season. And let's have more learning sessions going ahead.
Thanks, Sir Satish.
Thanks, Satish.
a
Thanks,
lot.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thanks.
Satish. It was a very
Thanks,
good session.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye, good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.